Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you a very long overdue bookshelf tour where I'll just basically walk you through the books I have and where I have them placed. Full disclosure, I do not organize my books in any way that makes sense. I somewhat try to group them together, but it doesn't really work out too well. So I'm hoping this video will also motivate me to sort of reorganize my bookshelf also. And I basically have like three little areas of books around the apartment, so I'll show you those in various levels of details. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. But first, the star of the channel. So right here we have our first bookshelf area, which includes books that are on the bookshelf, books that are on top of the bookshelf, and then books that are on the windowsill by the bookshelf, because obviously that bookshelf, I guess, just wasn't big enough. Then over here we have the second bookshelf area where we have some books on top of a chessboard and then random selections of books up there. And then last but not least, we have the third section of books, which is just a bunch of random books on that shelf and then some books over there, mixed with some games and pictures. So basically, I'll just go through each shelf, sort of talk about what kind of books each shelf has. Won't give too much detail about each book, obviously, because I don't want to make this 100 years long. But I'll talk about some of my favorites and stuff. So we'll start with the top of the bookshelf here. These books are basically just for display. So I've like flipped through them and stuff, but haven't really read them at all, like front to back, except for maybe this one. So this is the Virgil Abloh book. I'm a big fan of him. So I've read this, but it's more a display book. And then Humans by Brandon Stanton, I think. Stanton, he's the guy that runs the Humans of New York Instagram page, so that's a fun book to flip through. Black Food, which is just a cookbook, and then Black Futures, which is kind of a fun flip through book that has some really cool images and photos. But yeah, that's the top, mainly just aesthetic. And then a big plant person up there. And now moving on to the very first shelf in the tour. We got the top shelf of the black bookshelf right here. And this top shelf basically has like classics mixed with modern classics, basically classics until I ran out of those. So starting off hot with my favorite author of all time, John Steinbeck. We've got the Grapes of Wrath, which is my favorite book by my favorite author. And then Of Mice and Men, The Pearl, East of Eden, probably my second favorite Steinbeck book. It's amazing. And then The Pony, or The Red Pony, which is just a short story. And then next, going into also one of my favorite authors, J.D. Salinger, who wrote Franny and Zooey and The Catcher in the Rye. He has some other short stories, but these are basically the two novels that he wrote. Like them very much, so that earned them the second spot. Then we got Faulkner, and that's more to make me seem like an intellectual. I barely understood The Sound and the Fury, which is right there, but really liked it. And then As I Lay Dying, I did not like as much. Next up, we got Great Gatsby, which is definitely one of my favorite books of all time. You will see this copy's like very beat up from high school, but I love it. I still go back and look at the quotes that I highlighted when I was reading it, and would love to reread that soon. Next, we have Paradise Lost by John Milton. Just really liked that book for some reason. I don't know. I just kind of read it on a whim and enjoyed it a lot. So there it is. The Scarlet Letter by Nathaniel Hawthorne, which I did really like that book, but I also kind of have it highlighted up here because he went to my college, actually, obviously way before I did, but at my college you have to like sign, everyone who enters as a freshman has to sign this book, and he signed it obviously because he was a freshman there, and then I signed it as well, so my name is actually in the same book that Nathaniel Hawthorne signed, so I thought that was pretty cool. So that's why that's up there. Then we've got some of my favorite plays, which are Death of a Salesman, A Doll's House, and then Julius Caesar by Shakespeare. All those really enjoy. My favorite play of all time, though, is A Doll's House. So I think it's by Henry Ibsen. Just one of my favorite stories, and it's fun to read around Christmas time as well. Next, we have The One-Dimensional Man, which is a philosophy book. I didn't actually like this. I don't know. I liked it. It was just really hard to understand, but it's up there because it's kind of a classic book. My dog ate it a little bit, hence the tearing at the end. Very complicated book, but it has a lot of really cool ideas in it. Next up is The Brothers K by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Also one of my favorite books of all time. Just like the story, like the drama. It is really long and really hard to read, but I can't recommend it enough. Still think about some of the quotes from there all the time. And I read that book. I think I had to read it in either 9th or 10th grade, but I really enjoyed it. And then next up, Cormac McCarthy, The Road. That was one of my favorite books that I read 2 years ago. Really good, apocalyptic, so it's kind of scary. Next we have The Fall by Albert Camus, which I read for a book club, and none of us really were fans of it. I know his other books are better, so I do want to reread some of his books one day. Then Sons and Lovers by D.H. Lawrence. That's just up there because it's a classic. Don't super recommend it, but I'm glad I read it. Then we got Kurt Vonnegut, one of my favorite authors of all time. My favorite book by him is Slaughterhouse-Five, but I currently don't have a copy of that on this shelf. But God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater was so funny. Definitely my second favorite book I've read by him. I've also read Sirens of Titan and one other one, but I forget what it's called. Then we got James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain. Loved that book. Read it in high school though, so I definitely should revisit it at some point. Sula, which I've talked about before on this channel, like that book. And then Anne Petrie, The Street, that book, it's amazing. I'd never heard of it before having to read it for a Black Women's in Lit course, but it stood out to me so much. There's some lines in it I still think about all the time. Really good, but definitely you don't hear about it too much in like the list of classics or even like classic Black Women's Lit. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's about a single mom basically trying to make it in the city, and basically just what she has to do to earn a living. Then Their Eyes Were Watching God, obviously a classic. I liked it, but I'm not a huge fan. Kindred by Octavia Butler is amazing. Love that book. Fledgling by Octavia Butler, I can't say the same. It's just up there because I figured the authors should be together. But Kindred, amazing, classic. Fledgling, read at your own risk. And if you're into vampires, and yeah, that's quite the tale. Then Interpreter of Maladies. Really enjoyed that book. It's just short stories, which are very good. And I think it won the Pulitzer Prize, but I'm not sure. I could actually check. Let's see. Yes, it did win the Pulitzer Prize. Okay. Then we got more modern classics, or what I consider modern classics. I actually don't know if they're modern classics. But Infinite Jest, absolutely amazing. The first 300 pages are complete gibberish, and then a lot of the rest of it is also gibberish, but you really got to be patient with it and pull out what you want from it. But there are amazing insights, amazing prose. Just there's a lot in there, impossible to unpack it all, but definitely recommend. I'm also super into tennis, and half the book takes place at a tennis facility, so that's pretty cool. Then we got The Overstory by Richard Powers, which I actually listened to that on Audible. I just bought the copy because I really enjoyed the book and wanted to see it on my shelf, but love that. It's basically about trees, is how I would explain it, and so much more. But yeah, that's the first shelf. Whew. Okay, now moving on to the second shelf, which is kind of some more modern classics and then sort of just gets into books that I liked. So we'll start with The Reader by Bernard Slink, and that is in contention with my favorite book of all time, Slaughterhouse-Five. So love that book. Yeah, it's basically about the generation after the Holocaust in Germany who basically had to come to terms with the fact that most of their parents either participated in bad acts or just sat by and let them happen. So it's short, but it says a lot. And then next we've got Pachinko, which is my favorite book of 2023 that I read in 2023. It's been out a while, but love that book. Then we got The Secret History by Donna Tartt, which speaks for itself, basically. Great book, obviously. My favorite book by her is The Little Friend, though. So if The Secret History didn't do it for you, I definitely still recommend reading her other stuff because she's just an amazing author. Then we have some books by another one of my top 5 favorite authors, which would be Jonathan Franzen. I know he has some critiques about how he does choose to write female characters, but if you go into his books kind of with an open mind and knowing that he is writing female characters from a male perspective, I think that really helps. And then also just with the caveat that he still, even though he might get critiques for the way he does it, he still includes female characters as the main characters in his book, and definitely doesn't shy away from giving them equal roles as men, or even greater roles in for the most part. So those are the books by him: Crossroads, Freedom, and The Corrections. My favorite is Freedom, and then Crossroads was amazing, but it's supposed to be a trilogy, and the second one doesn't have a release date yet, so hoping for that. And I don't read series, books in a series very often, so I'm not used to waiting for something to come out, and it's very frustrating, but there we are. Then we got Yanagihara books, Little Life, which is obviously her most famous one. My dog took some bites out of that copy. Actually, she took a bite out of both of them. I did not like To Paradise, though, but I've got it on the shelf because it's a signed copy, and I thought that was pretty cool. Then we got some Sally Rooney, Normal People, Beautiful World, Where Are You? And I just read Intermezzo as well, which at first I wasn't super into, but then we had the book club discussion with my family because it was the book we read for our family book club, and it gave me a lot to think about, and it really stuck with a lot of my family members that read it. So it completely changed my opinion on the book, and I think it's probably now my Sally Rooney ranking goes Beautiful World, Where Are You, Intermezzo, and then Normal People. But I'm definitely interested in reading Conversations with Friends as well. Then we got some Otesha Moshfegh, Eileen, my favorite book by her, and then Sheila Heti, Motherhood, but my favorite book by her is Pure Color, but my dog ate that book. Then we got some poetry. I won't go into all the details on that, but I will say my favorite poet of all time is Ocean Vuong. He's young, still alive and stuff, so haven't read a ton of poetry, but just really like his prose. My favorite poetry collection by him is Time as a Mother, but I definitely recommend reading his book On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous before reading Time as a Mother. Then we have kind of more Asian literature over here. All these books, none of them are super famous, maybe Clara and the Sun and then No Longer Human, but I definitely, all of these are some really ones that I really enjoyed. Basically got The Levers by Lisa Ko, Celeste New, Everything I Never Told You. She wrote Little Fires Everywhere also. We got Clara and the Sun, Ishiguro, really good. All the Lovers in the Night, No Longer Human, and then just a book I had to read for school. Okay, this video is gonna be pretty long, so hopefully you're enjoying it, but we'll move on to the third shelf now. Okay, third shelf, let's go. Down here we have some nonfiction, some memoirs, and then some more Black literature. So we got some nonfiction here, Killers of the Flower Moon, which is one of my favorite nonfiction books. How I Built This by Guy Raz. He has a podcast. I only listen to like 2 podcasts, and one's a tennis one, and then one's How I Built This by Guy Raz. Definitely recommend it. He just interviews different entrepreneurs every week, and it's pretty good. But I'm a huge fan, so I got his book and read it, and it was amazing. Then Barack Obama's book, which I enjoyed much more than I thought I would. And then now more memoirs. So I Am. My friend got me that one. It's about a woman who had like 7 near-death experiences, and then each chapter is a different one of those experiences. Crying in H Mart, which I wasn't a huge fan of, or at least as much as I thought I would be, because it gets like so much hype online that I thought I would really enjoy it, but I liked it, but I wasn't super into it. Down the Drain by Julia Fox. One of my favorite memoirs at the moment. I thought it was just really funny and interesting. I have no idea what that book is, but clearly my dog ate it. I think it's hell of a book. I don't know the author, though. And then Educated by Tara Westover. That's my favorite memoir of all time. Super amazing if you hadn't read it. It's about just this woman's life, of course, because it's a memoir, but basically like growing up in a place where her dad did not allow her and her siblings to like be educated or read or anything. But the way the story is told and just how she was able to find success is so interesting. David Sedaris, who I've talked about before, but one of my favorite authors. Those are his two of his diary books. So they're basically just like his diary from before he was famous, all the way basically through present. And then just some more memoirs, and then we have some Black literature books over there. And now we'll move to the windowsill above the shelf. super organized here. So here we just have books that just don't fit on my shelf that I probably read before the books on the shelf. Before the Coffee Gets Cold, McGlue, another Tessa Mashve, A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I still haven't read the second one, but I promised people that I will. Demon Copperhead, amazing book. Tomorrow. Another Tessa Mashve, Death in Her Hand. The Quiet Tenant, which I did not love. The House by the Cerulean Sea, really liked that one. The other David Foster Wallace book, Pale King. Three Body Problem, one of my favorite science fiction series of like the 2 I read. Blake Crouch, both of which I actually read for book club. My favorite was Dark Matter, but Recursion was pretty good too. They're definitely like more thriller, pretty interesting. Then this is by like someone who wrote or helped like produce BoJack Horseman, but Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory. This book is really funny. Ask Again, Yes, Silver Nitrate, and then and some of these are also just copies of the same books as down there, but there's a copy of Intermezzo, another David Sedaris book. Bell Hooks, All About Love, another copy of Sula, another copy of A Little Life. I think I actually have like 3 copies of A Little Life. Another copy of Pachinko. The Dispossessed by Ursula Le Guin. That book is a very good sci-fi book. I would definitely recommend. The Piano Teacher, that's just a photo album. Another copy of Down the Drain. Night Crawling, which was like an Oprah book club book, but the author is 19, so I thought that was kind of crazy. My family read this for our book club book, and they did not like it. I thought it was pretty good, especially considering the age of the author, but they did not think so. So if you read this, let me know what you think. Lessons in Chemistry, this book, so funny. The TV show, not great. The Most Fun We Ever Had, and then Fleischman is in Trouble, which is one of my favorite longer books. And then moving over here, we've got somewhat of a science fiction section, but it only has Dune and the 3 Body Problem series, and that's about it. Oh, and then some manga that I bought in Japan. That's about it. And then my little Lego guy over here. Okay, we're getting through this, everybody. Now we have just a random shelf I created on the other side of the room to just make more room for books. we got The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt and A Little Friend by Donna Tartt. I read The Little Friend, haven't yet read The Goldfinch, but I have failed twice at reading it. The other Steinbeck books that I have but haven't read, actually I read Cannery Row, and that book I did like that a lot. Catherine Lacey book that I haven't read, Biography of X. This is probably actually her most famous book, I think, but I haven't read it. It's more recent. Another Cormac McCarthy book, The Passenger, which I haven't read, and then Purity by Jonathan Franzen, which I haven't read, but I really want to read because I think it's one of his most famous books as well. Never Let Me Go, which I have raved about before in this channel. I really like this book. Then we got J.D. Salinger, which I've read this and then haven't read these two, but I got another copy of this because I wanted to match. But yeah, that's basically that section as well. And now moving on to this chaotic bookshelf, which I'm not gonna at all go through other books here because some of them are not mine and some of them are just totally random. But I will show you like the shelves and stuff. And also the apartment is currently suffering from some leaking, so that's why the loud dehumidifier is over there. Up here we got a random assortments of books. My dad's been trying to get me to read that one, but I haven't yet. Some copies of The Constitution and The Art of War. Lord of the Rings, which I'm not a Lord of the Rings fan, so that one's not mine. War and Peace, a basketball book, and then the other two Bell Hooks books. So haven't read any of these, I don't think, except for The Art of War and Macbeth. So, and then yet another shelf of books that I don't think I have. Oh, I have read. No, I haven't read any of these books. They look good though. This shelf is just games and Funko Pops. Nothing too crazy. And then these are just legal books and another Funko Pop. Up here are some books that I want to read and then some just random books. A lot of these, yeah, I got with the intention of reading but have not read yet. The one I'm most excited to read is probably Shuggie Bain because I've heard that's really good. And then maybe one of the Toni Morrison books over there. But yeah, that's that. And then these last two shelves are just a random assortment of games, cartoons, and anime, it looks like. Have not read any of these. I wrote that one or part of that one though. But yeah, that's basically it. And then finally, two books that you wouldn't see on my shelves but that I'm currently reading are Free Food for Millionaires by the author of Pachinko, and then What If We're Wrong by Chuck Klosterman. The Free Food for Millionaires I'm just reading for fun, and then the Chuck Klosterman book is for a book club, so I'm looking forward to reading both of those. But yes, thank you for sticking around, if you did stick around for some or all of that. And yeah, I'll be back again soon with another video. Thank you.